Recording now, this is lesson 5.9 on discounts, taxes, and gratuity. So before watching this recording, please make sure you have the 5.9 worksheet in front of you along with a highlighter or a different colored pen or a pencil. Now, it's really important that you make note of everything that's covered in this video because in order to do the assignment, you have to understand how these different calculations work and how they work together. First, we'll go over vocabulary. So just take your highlighter and highlight the word discount here. So to be clear, discount refers to the amount of money taken off the regular price of an item. In other words, it's the difference between the regular price and the sale price of an item. So you don't pay what the discount amount is. So you have to subtract it from the regular price afterwards. So that'll be in the next part. So oftentimes you'll see discounts in stores or you'll see discounts online. So having an understanding of what percent off means or even taking the percent of a number is key in doing these calculations. So let's look at the example here. It says the hardcover edition of Junior High by Tegan and Sarah is regularly priced at $19.95. You need to first estimate, then calculate the discount. Again, as said above, it's the amount of money saved if the book is on sale for 15% off. So what you need to do is round your answer to the nearest cent if necessary. Okay, so it says to estimate, so we're going to do that first. So you're going to do your estimate. And please make sure that you do this also when you do your assignment as well, but it's always good practice to estimate so that you understand generally if your answer is accurate or not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take 15% of $20. I'm going to round $19.95 up to 20. Okay, so how am I going to do this? Well, I know that in the previous lesson I learned about shortcuts. So I'm going to take 10% of 20, which is 2, because I'm just moving the decimal place over to the left by 1, right? And I know if I take 5% of 20, all I'm doing is I'm referring to the answer for 10%, and I'm dividing that in half, which is 1, because 5% is half of 10%. So I know if I add those two together, therefore 15% of $20 is $3. So I know whatever my answer is when I'm calculating 15% of $19.95, I know my answer is going to be around $3. Okay, so again, do your estimate. So this is a really handy way to do 10 and 5 for 15%, especially when you're working with a nice number like 20. But we are going to do the actual calculations. So you need to do the hand calculations and understand how it works. So then what I want you to do is I want you to calculate 15% of $19.95, which is the actual total. Now, if you want to pause the recording or pause the video right now, do the calculation. I encourage you to do that and then just double check your work after you've done the calculation yourself. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to multiply without the decimal because I know I'm going to use my estimate of $3, knowing my answer has to be around $3. So I'm going to do 1,995 times 15. I know that that's going to be 5, that's going to be 7, that's going to be 9 and 9. I'm carrying everything, so 5 times 5. I'm going to put a 0 there so that I know this next line here, 5, 9, 9, 1. And then I'm just going to add my numbers, 5, so 5 is 12, 9, and then I'm going to carry it again. That's going to be another 9, and that's a 2. So if my answer is 29925, I look at where my decimal place should go. My answer is around $3. I know that it's going to be 2.9925. The decimal place is going to be between the 2 and the 9 because my actual answer should be around $3. Now, I'm going to keep this as reference. I'm not going to cross this out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer that the discount, so meaning the amount of money taken off, is $2.99, okay? But I'm going to keep the original answer there for reference. Remember that when you have money, dollars and cents, it's just 2 decimal places. I think you all remember that from last time. So that's how you calculate discount. Estimate first and then do the actual calculation, okay? So that's part 1. Let's move on to part 2, which relates to part 1. Now, the subtotal is the amount calculated after discount is taken off or before taxes or gratuity are added. So this is the order in which prices are calculated. So first you subtract the discount and then you deal with the taxes later. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna calculate the cost or the subtotal of the book after the discount, but that's not our final price yet. That's why we call it a subtotal. So what you're gonna do, and I'm just gonna write this down for accuracy, and this is why I kept that original answer up there. I want you to keep more decimal places. I want you to keep more decimal places in the calculations from number 1 so that you're a bit more accurate. So you're not rounding too much, okay? Now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna subtract to find the subtotal. So what are you subtracting? You're going to take $19.95, which is the regular price of the book. And then you're going to subtract 2.9925. And notice, remember, I took that from here, okay, 29925, because I want to keep more decimal places for accuracy. Because I like to have zeros in the other number I'm subtracting from, just so it's easier for me to subtract. Now go ahead and pause the video and do the actual subtraction. 29925, just to reiterate, is the amount of the discount. So go ahead, pause the video, and then double check your work afterwards. I'm gonna continue. Okay, so I know that's going to be 49. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 2 is 7. It's going to be 8. 5. That's going to be 8. 2 minus 5 is 9. 6. Okay, so my final answer is 16.9575. I've just lined up my decimal here. Now, I'm going to keep those decimal places there, but I am going to round to the nearest cent because I need to give an actual cost or subtotal of the book. So if I'm rounding to the nearest cent, the subtotal is approximately $16.96 because of the 7 in the thousands place. Okay? So that's how you calculate the subtotal. Now we're still not done. So if you flip over to the next part of the page, we still have to deal with taxes. So we're gonna go with reference of what we deal with here in BC. So in BC, we actually have 2 taxes that are applicable in this case. Not all items that you purchase will have both of these taxes, but most likely you'll have both or you'll have one or the other. If you want to read more information about it, you can look it up. There is a website here that you may refer to later because it will tell you what items or services actually have these 2 taxes. So the federal tax, which means like this is across Canada, is the GST, which is goods and services. So goods and services is 5% of whatever the subtotal is. And then the PST, which is the provincial sales tax, and this is specific to BC because all provinces have different rates, it is 7%. So, and remember we talked about taxes and just in terms of where that money goes, and usually it goes to government services and then it gets divvied up or split up into various areas that go back into the community generally. So therefore, sometimes you need to add up to 12% to a bill if both taxes are added. In this case, we are adding both taxes. So what you first have to do though, is you have to calculate the GST and the PST that will be added to the cost of the book, okay? Now, this is where you have to be careful, and I want you to jot this down too. Make sure you're jotting everything down. So because it's GST and PST, it's 12% because you're adding the 5% and you're adding the 7%, right? So it's going to be a total of 12%. The 12% is going to be calculated on the subtotal in number 2. Do not go back to the regular price because you don't want to be paying more than you should. So don't calculate the tax on the regular price from number 1. You're going to calculate it on the subtotal with the discount taken off, which is why we chunk this into steps, right? With the discount taken off. Okay, so if we go back to what our subtotal was, and we're going to take all the decimal places anyways, it is 16.9575. So what we're going to first do is we're going to estimate, because we always go back to estimating. We're going to estimate. I'm going to say, 10% is a good benchmark. I'm going to estimate 10% of, sorry, I'm just going to write this down here, 16.9575. 10% of 16.9575. So let's make that to 17. So I'm going to estimate 10% of $17 because I know I can do that in my head. So that is $1.70. So I know that the tax is going to be around $1.70. And when you actually calculate it, okay, you're going to take 12% of 16.9575. Okay, for this calculation, you can pull out your calculator for this one only. So remember, when you're actually taking 12%, you're going to convert that to a decimal. So that's going to be 12 hundredths times 16 and 9575, because I want to keep all my decimal places. That gives me 2.0349, which is close to $1.70 because of our decimal placement, being mindful of that. Now, because again, you want to address what the amount of tax is, I'm going to take this answer and round it to the nearest hundredth. Therefore, the amount of taxes is $2.03. Okay? Because again, I'm rounding it to the nearest hundredth because you want to keep 2 decimal places. Now you're seeing there's a lot of calculations that go into it. When a receipt is given, there's actually a lot of calculations, and it's important you understand how these calculations work, okay? Finally, the last calculation to do with this is now you're going to calculate the total amount of the book with the appropriate taxes included. Again, now in this case, I want you to do this by hand, no calculator. So you're going to take what the subtotal was from number 2, which was 16.9575, keep all the decimals, and then you're going to add, again, you're going to add this one and keep all the decimals, 2.0349. Again, I encourage you to do this on your own and pause the video and add these two numbers together. I'm going to continue. 5 and 14, 8 and 4 are 12, 1 and 5 and 6 3 are 9, 9, 8 and 9. Okay, so our final total rounded to the nearest cent would be $18.99, okay? So therefore, the total amount of the book with the discount taken off and with the taxes added the total amount for the book is $18.99. Okay, now if you notice here, it's actually not far off from what the regular price was, okay? So if you look at compare that to the regular price was $19.95, right? So really, what you're saving in essence is you're saving the tax if it's 15% off, because the tax, a little bit more than the tax. The tax is 12%, but our actual total becomes $18.99 with a discount and with the taxes added in, okay? So that's the process. So again, to repeat, If you have a discount, you take it off the regular price, right? So you're going to go with an estimate, and then you calculate 15% of that, okay? And then what you're doing after that, and I forgot a step here. What you're actually doing as your calculation is you're going 0.15 times 19.95 but understand that I just multiplied it as whole numbers. I placed the decimal based on our estimate up there. And then you have your subtotal, where you're subtracting the discount from the regular price, and then you calculate the tax. Again, you do the tax on the subtotal with the discount taken off. And then once you have the tax amount, you add that to the subtotal, and then you have your final total. Okay, the final piece here is gratuity. Okay, so gratuity, also known as tipping or tip. So in Canada, usually 15 to 20%, and it's becoming more and more towards like 18 to 20% now, is added to a bill given for services at a restaurant, hotel, or spa, etc. Gratuity is added after taxes are added usually, okay? Usually. And I would say right now in some places, and I have a note here, in some places, it's not always the case because some consumers believe it is best to tip on the price before taxes are added. So just know in general how tips and gratuity are calculated. And sometimes, it's a personal decision how much you tip, okay? So the scenario here is, suppose you had dinner at Cactus Club Cafe and your subtotal with taxes added. So I've actually already done the work, okay? I've added in the taxes for you already. It was $75.78. Now suppose you're gonna tip on the $75.78 though, okay? What would your total bill be with gratuity added at 15%? So we're gonna take 15% as our tip. So same process as before, you're gonna take an estimate, okay? You're gonna estimate first, so what to do. So this $75.78, I'm gonna take it up to $80, okay? So I'm gonna do 15% of 80, because 80 is a nicer number to work with. Okay, so I know, let's break this down, 10 and 5. So I know 10% of 80 is 8, because I'm moving the decimal place over to the left by 1. I know that 5% of 80 is gonna be half of 8, which is 4. If I add those two together, I know therefore 15% of $80 is gonna be $12. So I know that's approximately how much I'm gonna tip. So here you're gonna calculate, I want you to calculate, and please do the hand calculations for this. 15% of $75.78, no calculators, use your hand calculations. So I know that the actual calculation is going to be, I'm converting 15% to a decimal, and I'm multiplying it by 75.78. Since I know my estimate is 12, I'm gonna multiply as whole numbers. So I'm gonna do this below. Again, I encourage you to pause the recording and do your hand calculations on your own, and then continue the recording once you're done so you can check your work. I'm going to continue. 8 times 5 is 40 plus 4. 7 times 5 is 35 plus 4 is 39. Carry 3. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 3 is 28. 7 times 5 is 35 plus 2 is 37. That's my first line. 0, 8, 7, 5, 7. So when I add this together, 0, 15, oops, not 15, should be 17, 1, 9, and 7 are 16, 1, 8, and 5 are 13, 1, 7, 4 are 11. Okay, so I know that's my last line. So I know my answer is going to be around 12. I'm looking at my estimate here. So I know the decimal place is going to be 11.3670. Okay. So really the amount of the tip is around $11.36. Now, the amount of the tip, if I round it, is going to be $11.37. But what I'm going to do in my final calculation is I'm going to take this whole number. You are not paying $11.37. That is the tip. So remember, the question is asking what is your total bill going to be? So think to yourself what you need to do. You need to take 1136.70 and add it to 75.78. And again, I encourage you to pause the recording and complete this on your own. I'm going to put in the decimal so I can line that up. 11,367.0. So I'm going to say this is the subtotal and this is the tip. So you're going to add it together. And again, do this on your own, please. Decimals there, 7, 14, 11, 6 and 2 are 8. So, oh, did I do something wrong here? Okay, 7, 8 and 6 are 14, 1, 7, 8 and 3 are 11, 1, oh, it should be a 7 here. Okay, so if I know it's 87.147, I know I'm dealing with dollars and cents. So your total with the tip included is $87.14. Okay. Whoops. Nope. Not 14 cents. 15 cents because of the 7. Okay. So this is the total bill. Okay. So the step I could have added was to get you to do the taxes as well and then do the tip. But just so you know that it's tax, then tip technically when you're doing this calculation. So again, we had the subtotal already with the taxes added, 75.78. We estimated 15% of 80. And then we did the actual calculation. We found out how much the tip was. And then we added that to the subtotal to get the total bill. So hopefully by now you have a better understanding of how these calculations work to do with discounts, taxes, and gratuity.